and it's getting weird around here. If she has no haters, that means I have passed away. I'm on Discord. I'm in the chats. I live in a very black and white world. I don't think you heard me. Yes. I just finished listening to, what's it called? Duran Bernard. Maybe I'm saying his name wrong. But the guy whose dad sent in his album and then he won a Grammy. This album was amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. And a lot of the songs are gonna go on some playlists. It was almost like listening to Thundercat, but like not at all. Not at all like listening to Thundercat. Anyway, hey girl, what's going on? I'm Kristianna, and there's a whole lot going on. I've kind of like had a little gap here where I just like couldn't find time to record. I go out of town a lot for work, and so I was doing that. I was in Denver one week, and then I was in DC another week. Your girl is a girl around town, okay? A girl about town. And it was cold as heck. And then I was like trying to figure out how to record in this room without freezing my buns off, because it gets very, very nippy. I have a lot of windows in my house, and we had like this super like cold surge at one point where it was just like, no matter how high the heat was, it just wasn't strong enough to combat the amount of windows bringing in cold air, if that makes sense. It was a mess, and I was in here freezing, me and baby the cat. But thankfully the weather looks like it's breaking. I'm kind of scared to like speak on it for real. But I was just looking at the forecast for the next like week or so. There's even a day where it's supposed to get to like 60. Today is supposed to be 45 degrees. Like I'm scared to even take it seriously. Actually, like after we're done chit chatting here, I'm probably gonna go outside. And really I'm gonna go outside and dig out my car, because at one point it like snowed, and then like everybody was like having the parking wars. People were getting beat up. Mind you, I'm in Philly, okay? I always say this. Mind you, I'm in Philly. The girls were fighting each other. People were like cracking people's front windshields for like stealing their parking spot after they dug it out of the snow. Like it was getting really, really ugly. And I was seeing some of that stuff, and I was like, listen, I don't have time. Okay. So my car has been sitting in the same exact spot since the big snowstorm. And that was like almost 3 weeks ago. My car has not moved an inch, and it's probably dead. I'm probably gonna have to jump it because it's just been sitting like that, but also it's covered in snow still. And so I'm hoping that like with the really nice weather, and it's supposed to rain tomorrow, I think, hopefully a combination of things will happen, and hopefully I'll be able to get my car up and going. So that's my plan. Anyway. I just like told you guys this whole thing, but I'm just excited to be back and like recording and chit chatting, and I have some thoughts about a lot of things, and I don't know, I guess we could just get into it, huh? Hope you're doing well. Okay, so if you've watched other episodes so far, you'll know at one point I mentioned this topic, and then I was like, I'm gonna come back to this later because it feels super, super nuanced. And that was really around what is owed to viewers of content, like as far as like a person's like political standing, how they feel about what's happening in the world right now, and whether or not they like owe it to the world to speak up or like say something or put up a black box or whatever it is, right? I still have like a lot of thoughts, and so I just want to kind of have an open discussion with you, I think, on this topic, because I like I said, I mentioned it, and then I think shortly after I started seeing other people making much more pointed content. I even saw something that I was like, did they see what I said and responded? Did they was that about me? Is this story about me? You know what I mean? Because I said at one point that, like, for me as an individual, for me as Kristianna, right? Like, I work a 9 to 5 doing movement work, doing activist work, helping people, working people, workers' rights and stuff like that. That's my area. And I spend more than 40 hours a week doing that, right? Like, because really it is more of a lifestyle than it is a just like 9 to 5 job that I have. That is a bet I made for myself when I was 20 years old and joined the movement. I am now 34, and I just know that that's just what it is. It is, yes, I get paid from doing this work, but also that it is a lifestyle choice that I've made. Now, at the end of my day, when it is finally over, I like to hop online as a form of like relaxation, to get away, to see what's up in the world, to be informed, to kiki with the girls. I also make content. I don't make as much because I just don't have the time. And also I'm just like in a different space right now. Like I've been telling you guys, I feel really deeply that I just want to chat right now. You know what I mean? I have a vlog channel and I love to vlog, but also that I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything right now that is like super vlog worthy. But also I noticed that when I'm not vlogging, I save money. Not that I'm not down bad or anything right now, thankfully. But I don't feel the pressure to buy stuff when I'm not vlogging, because a lot of times like we're buying things so we can chit chat and give reviews, or maybe just for the sake of having content. Like I love to thrift. I haven't been to the thrift store in weeks or whatever, because like I'm not trying to like vlog right now. You know what I mean? Like if I was going to go to the store, I would want to vlog it, right? But because I'm not like doing any of that, there's no pressure to spend money to like make content happen, Anyway, I feel like that's probably a whole other topic, but I mostly come to the internet to chill. And I don't necessarily like want to use my free time like having to do more work. Like, I don't know. And it's like a funny space to be, because I'm now like, kind of doing this channel where I am talking about a lot of political things that are on my mind. But this is just like what's on my mind right now. Like at some point we might talk about some other stuff, because this isn't like gonna be like a political channel necessarily, but it's just what's happening right now that is making me have reactions to things, and that's what we just happen to be talking about right now, right? But like this isn't gonna be like a soapbox where you can like come and hear me chat about like political things in a lot of detail. You're probably not gonna learn a lot. Like you'll probably just get my thoughts and opinions on a thing, And so like, I don't know. I think that there's like a lot of pressure right now. Specifically, I'm just seeing it like on content creators and celebrities to speak out and to say what type of time they're on. And like I said, I think that this is a really, really nuanced conversation because I can't even land on what I actually believe. And I'm going to tell you what else I believe. So this whole thing I'm coming back to, right, based on a conversation I had in therapy. And really what I was saying to my therapist is that like I live in a very black and white world, right? Like either you're right, you're wrong, you're left, you're right. Like, I live in a very black and white world, and I sometimes have a hard time when I'm interacting with people who hang out in the gray area. Like I have some people even in my life, in my direct like life, who hang out a lot in the gray area. If they're in a room and they hear people having certain opinions on things, they might not say a word each way, like either way, you know what I mean? They might literally just be neutral or say that they're neutral or not say anything. And one thing I've learned about me is that I can't stand people like that. I cannot stand people like that. And what I said to my therapist is like, I live in a very black and white world, yes, But be clear, I'm not saying that you have to agree with everything that I say, but you do have to have some sort of opinion. Like, I do actually need to know who I'm dealing with at all times. One thing that's very scary to me, a fear that I have, right, is like to be spending time with somebody that I like, spending lots of time with somebody and I don't actually know them, or like they actually have a secret life, or that they actually secretly hate me and I'm not realizing it, but I'm like pouring into them, whether that's romantic or platonic, because I just thought about it, like that could actually be what happens in a romantic relationship, although I wasn't thinking that when I said it. I was actually referring to a friendship I once had where I kind of felt like I didn't really know this person after feeling like I knew them really well. Like there was a situation that happened and I was like, whoa, like who even are you? And I had to disconnect from them because it scared me to my core that actually like you're not who I thought you were. And actually, I don't even think I know you. Right. Right. And so like, I'm realizing, like, even though I kind of said in the last video, you don't know what people got going on at home, right? You don't know what people do. You don't know what people got going on. It is kind of weird, the idea, like, I'm watching this video of this person being like, if you have a platform, if you're making content, you know what I mean? No matter, like, your following or whatever, like, you need to be saying something, you know? And it's like, whoa, like, I don't think I actually have to say anything because I'm just here to relax. I'm on social media to relax. This isn't even a real place. You know what I mean? But like actually social media has a lot of value. I know that of all people, but and it is somewhat of a space and a real place, but like, you know, me being defensive and pushing back, that's kind of what type of time I was on that night. But also that like I don't know, I've just been thinking about this for a couple weeks and I just have a bunch of notes. And so I'm just going to be touching on stuff. Okay. So the one thing I wrote was around the fact that I think that there are like a lot of layers of the sorts of people we could be talking about. I wrote like traditional celebrities, social media influencers, political figures, and the everyday Joe. I also wrote some quick notes around like teacher influencers, white influencers, and this girl named Madeline I was following, which I want to just go back up a little bit, is like, there have been a lot of moments, just like in pop culture generally, where things have happened in the world, whether that was Black Lives Matter or stuff around Gaza, where we were calling on celebrities to like step up, please say something, right? And I think that it makes sense that we were doing that, right? Because these are people who are hyper visible. Like every time Billie Eilish, and I wrote Billie Eilish name down here too, every time Billie Eilish like decides she's gonna donate some money or she's gonna use her platform to call other people out, people who have more access than her, like anytime she wants to use her platform, it's a win because she's so visible, not to mention because she's white, right? So like more people are looking at her, and not to say that like the white man's ice is colder or nothing like that, but a lot of times like when they do like they're just able to reach corners and crevices of like a collective consciousness that maybe somebody who's Black or brown might not like be able to do in the same way. And so like that's you know kind of interesting thinking about like, is it like a celebrity's responsibility to be speaking up when things happen? Maybe not necessarily, but also I understand why it is impactful when they do, but also that silence can be complicitness. Like if you're a celebrity, people are actively asking you to speak up on a thing. Maybe you're not the most maybe you're not the most read or researched on the topic, so maybe that's the moment you uplift someone who do know what the hell they're talking about, you know what I mean? But like I think when they decide they're not going to say anything at all, that's when it gets weird, because then you're like, oh, like maybe they agree with this, like maybe they agree with what's going on, and so like I don't know, that's kind of like one bucket of thought I had. And then I really wanted to speak on the social media influencer thing more than like any of these other categories, because I kind of been just like in a weird place, specifically with the white influencers that I follow or like watch their vlogs on YouTube and stuff. There's one in particular where I'm assuming she's feeling like she's not the most versed to be able to speak on what's going on, so she just keeps like posting like graphics and stuff in her like Instagram stories and like uplifting stuff in her Instagram stories. She might write a couple words, or she might put like an emoji, a broken heart emoji or something, but she's generally trying to say like, hey, this is where I am on this issue. And honestly, like, it's been interesting because I'm on Discord. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm on Discord. I'm in the chats. I'm watching the people talk about the other people. Okay, I'm a messy queen. Okay, and I don't mind sitting and reading what people are thinking about people's vlogs or about people or whatever. And on this specific creator, the girls are tearing her up, right? Because they feel like she's like halfway trying to engage with the topic of what is happening politically in the world, but she's not exactly like going for it in the way that they think that she should. Honestly though, like for me, I look at that and I'm like, this is a little bit cringe, but also she's making her position clear on this topic by speaking on it at all and like uplifting this sort of content about the issue, or about the issues. That tells me that I can at the very least continue to support and watch this person, right? Now there's another like white influencer that I follow where she's just going on with her happy merry life, okay, never touching on any of the issues, and it's got me feeling weird. Like I'm starting to feel weird. Even I haven't tuned in to any of her vlogs in weeks, and she posts twice a week, you know what I mean? And I feel weird about engaging with her content right now just because she's silent, like not even on her Instagram, nothing, you know what I mean? And it's getting weird around here, like and that's the thing, like, is it her responsibility to say anything? Like, I don't think that they have to lead the charge, but I do think it does bother me when I don't know what type of time you on. I think it actually does bother me. And I didn't think it did this bad, but it does. And then, like, I know that there are lots of Black influencers who don't speak up on politics or whatever. And I will say, I oftentimes do have a little bit more grace on them. You know what I mean? Just like us as oppressed peoples, we don't always have the language and stuff like that to like tackle the thing. Also, that we know that when we get banned from opportunity, like when we do take the risk and we do step out and we do like, you know, sound off about whatever, sometimes we don't come back from being blacklisted, right? And so even on the sim stuff, like that's a whole other thing. Like, or actually, no, it's not a whole other thing. It's the same conversation. I'm just thinking about these are gaming influencers, but like with the Sims game being sold to Saudi Arabia and like the way that discourse is going, it's the top of the top of the top of the Sims influencers are mostly white people, you know what I mean? And then at the very bottom, who are getting the scraps of opportunities in the Sims world, are all the Black and brown people who are, for the most part, not saying too much, right? Because this is like their livelihood. They know that they barely just got into the damn creator program, you know what I mean? And that like if they step out there too hard or whatever, they're never coming back. You know what I mean? The opportunity will be gone and they will never come back. Where some of these other people appear with like all this like privilege, they will be fine. They will be fine. One of my favorite creators that does Sims content, the girls are saying she bringing in millions every month from her content. Like, I don't know that, you know what I mean? But like, she will be fine. Versus, like I said, somebody who just barely got into the creator program knows that they will never see another opportunity if they like mess up this one. I don't know. It's very, very complicated. I wish I had written more about the teacher influencer thing, but I remember I saw this TikTok a while ago of someone just kind of being really upset about the fact that there are teacher influencers who are like kind of on some weird time. I saw this one video too about this man who like made a fake ICE page. And a teacher like called in and tried to get one of her students' families deported. It was crazy, but like it was really wild. It was really wild and disgusting. I don't know. I think in a situation of a teacher who is online making content around them being a teacher and they're like super silent on things that are probably affecting kids like that they teach or whatever. I think it's a tricky spot too. I think I'm gonna leave that one where it is because I don't remember the notes that I had about that. Now the next thing is some thoughts I had on like the concept of political figures speaking up. This is local and very like niche to Philly, right? But y'all know I've been talking a lot about Mayor Parker. And how if she has no haters, that means I have passed away. Totally. I also like feel a lot of frustration around the way that she has like talked about what's going on in like what has been happening in Minnesota, what's happening even here in Philly, what's happening Jersey, like in surrounding areas, like whatever. Around ICE and the siege that we are all under. She put out this statement the other day that was very much like, you guys are getting too excited about like what's like, we don't like, she tried to call it, what was the word? I'm gonna look it up because I want to get this one right. She put out a statement the other day on Facebook. Let's see. Here we go. I found it. Okay, hold on. No. I think she took it down. Okay, so she took it down. I can't find the statement, but basically, some folks in city council had put a number of bills together to try to, get some enforcement going with ICE when they finally do come here and they're like running amok. Stuff including like being able to like to mandate that they show their face, stuff like that. At city council, like they do their thing, they make their proposals, and then it has to go to the mayor for like final approval or whatever. And she put out this statement basically being like, I'm aware, that of the proposals, like it's on my desk, my lawyer's looking at it, blah, blah, blah. But you guys are like getting too excited about the fear of the unknown or whatever. And it was like crazy because it's like, what you mean unknown? Like, no, everybody knows exactly what it is. Like, you know what I mean? ICE and them boys, like they on the way. Okay. And we're trying to like, as a city, be prepared for when things get out of control. And so it's like not like the fear of the unknown, and it felt really insulting actually that she would do that. But that's like what type of time she's been on. Like, people are saying that she may allow like the police to help them once they're here and running amok. Somebody like that, where it's like she like is a person who has a lot of power over what will and won't happen to people living in Philadelphia. It's super important that she's like speaking, you know what I mean? Because we all do need to know what type of time she's on. And also the fact that like there have been things that happen in the city over the last couple of months where she's just like dead silent. And other people from other entities in the political world in Philly have had to like step up and speak up about different issues when she will not. Yeah, I think she thinks like if she's really, really quiet, we'll just forget that she's the mayor of the city. Yeah. Speaking of relaxed though, I thought it was really funny the other day I was scrolling and I saw city councilwoman Kendra Brooks on TikTok, and she's like, hey, my daughter says like I should get on TikTok. So I'm on TikTok, and she's like kind of chit-chatting, and she's talking about like her weight loss journey, and she's like just showing us her fit, and like it was a cute video. Like I enjoyed it. I thought it was very funny because I know Kendra. Like I know her personally. Like we used to work together before she was the Kendra Brooks, you know? And I giggled at it, and then I looked in the comments, and there are people trying to be like, oh, like you need to be talking about what's going on with your constituents, and da 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 da. You need to be talking about what you're doing at work, and da 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 blah 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 blah. I don't think that's what she meant. I think and this is like a good example of like just if she's a servant of the people already and is doing the people's work, you know, does she owe every online platform more work? Like, can she come to TikTok as just like Kendra, not like Councilwoman Kendra, but like it's just Kendra, and like tell us about her day or tell us about her outfit she want to wear that day? Like, does she owe us? I don't know, because then it's like you have like Councilman O'Rourke, who is actually using his TikTok to talk about what like a day in a life is like for him, or like bills and stuff that he is like working on, and or stuff he's already signed in, or you know, he's like doing a lot. It's like his social media platform, all of them are an extension of the work that he's doing, and that's cool. That's cool. Kendra, I think, still has a personal like Facebook, and you know what I mean? We're friends there. And I think she also does have a personal Instagram too. And obviously she has her stuff for work, but like, does she owe every platform a certain version of herself? I don't know. Like, let me know what you think about that, actually. Because again, it's like sometimes people just want to relax too. Like people want to chill. Like, I don't know. But I will say in the same breath, if Sherelle Parker had a personal page where she was just hanging out, I would be really pissed off. That shit would piss me off so bad. I'm not even gonna hold you. That would piss me off bigly. So maybe it's that like it depends on your level of success and where you are, whether or not you like owe the people your time in a certain way, or owe the people your voice in a certain way, your presence in a certain way. Maybe that is actually what it is. The last thing on this topic, and then we're gonna move on, is around craftivists. There was an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer recently talking about the way that different craftivists, people who are crafters, like they sew, they knit, they crochet, stuff like that, but they also like are outward about their social justice beliefs, craftivists. There was an article that came out just like kind of talking and highlighting a lot of the stuff that people are doing to kind of show their solidarity with people in Minneapolis. And a lot of them are like making these, like they're knitting these like red hats that have just like a historical meaning of resistance and solidarity. Like they just have this background that people may not have known, which is why they're red, not another color. Because I was like, why are they red? Can we make them another color? Historically, the hats were red, and the article kind of gets all into that, and it was a good piece, right? And they were like kind of straightforward and talking about how they have been getting criticism. People who are craftivists get criticism sometimes because people are like, you sewing hats isn't gonna like stop the Gestapo from hurting people and taking people and whatever. But they got into like in the article, like not only are they like sending these hats to show their love and their solidarity with people, but also the money, the proceeds for the pattern for the hat, which I didn't realize until later that that knitters and crocheters, like you need a pattern to actually make the things. Like I didn't realize that, because you know I sew, I know how to sew and I make clothes, like I know how to make clothes, but I didn't realize that they needed a pattern to do that work too, which is, you know, interesting. But people were like selling the pattern for the hat and like giving the proceeds to different organizations that are doing mutual aid work, and like helping people who need it, who need help. And I thought that was really interesting. I don't think that there's a right way to show up if you're showing up. Like, everybody's gonna have their forte, their area of interest. I think I mentioned that before, is like, you know, if you're feeling scared, get involved with something. Like, find an area of interest that really is of meaning to you and get involved in that. For me, it is around worker activism, and that's the area that I stick to and I work through. But other people, it could be other things. And I think that telling somebody like them, like knitting this hat and like sending it, and you know what I mean, is wrong, or that's not how you do it. I don't think that's right. I don't think we should gatekeep the movement. I think that whoever wants to be involved should be allowed to do that. Yeah, like if there are other ways that they can help and get involved and be more helpful, I think that suggestions are always welcome. But to be like, oh, you guys shouldn't be doing this or whatever, like, come on, shut up. Be quiet. Be quiet. Be quiet. Okay. I think I got the camera back the way it was. I had to stop and have lunch, okay? I was hungry. I made some ravioli. Okay, so let's talk about stuff I've just been into. I've been in my audiobook era for like a little minute now. Support your local library. I wish that somebody would have told me a long time ago that the library had audiobooks, and that like you didn't have to go to the library like to enjoy stuff that's of the library. Like, we really are in the future now. Okay, but I recently just finished this is getting so dark. I recently just finished The Handmaid's Tale. Okay, so hear me out. Like, I obviously am a very like opinionated person. I love having opinions about things. And I do feel like if you don't know the readings, okay, if you didn't do the background work, you are limited on the kinds of opinions you can have about a thing. Okay. You know, and even though we're talking about The Handmaid's Tale, I'm also, reading or listening to the Harry Potter series now. Okay. J.K. Rowling is not a good human being. However, she did make this like masterpiece that is one of few things that can calm my nerves when I'm just like underwater. You know what I'm saying? I am a very spicy brained girly. And there are very few things that can bring me a sense of chill. The Harry Potter series is one of those things. I watch it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again pretty regularly. I have the DVD set when I'm like on a plane and I hate flying. That's usually what I'm watching. But I realized at a certain point that my opinions on things were very limited because I had only seen the movies. I've never read the books, but I'm just like not in a physical book reading moment right now. But I have room to do some audio booking. So I've actually just recently also finished the second book in the Harry Potter series, and now I'm just waiting my turn for the third one. But the same thing with The Handmaid's Tale. I was in a rabbit hole on TikTok one night, and there's this woman whose whole page is dedicated to breaking down the show, as well as the book, The Handmaid's Tale. And if you got your ears and eyes open and you're looking around us right now, the stuff with Project 2025 and Project Esther and stuff from the Heritage Foundation, like all this stuff is coming down. And who knows how much longer we have to be, if you are like me, how much longer we have to be like single women walking around freely without the presence or interference or help of men. You know, things are headed in a really dark direction, and people like have often been saying like it feels like the people who are writing all this stuff about what they want to see in our country are like taking pages directly out of The Handmaid's Tale. And I thought it was really interesting that Margaret Atwood, I think is how you pronounce her last name, the one who wrote The Handmaid's Tale, was saying like basically all the stuff that she wrote is like based on things that have actually happened to some degree in real life over the years. And she kind of just like cobbled all the stuff together and wrote this book. And it was interesting the way that it was similar to the series that we've seen on Hulu. If you've watched the series, I actually did not finish the series because it just, after like June continuing to go back into Gilead was really hard for me to get on board with, you know what I mean? After she like finally gets out, you know, she doesn't have Hannah, her daughter, who, you know, got taken away. And I understand like she wants to like fight until she can get her daughter back. It was just hard to, we went through so much with her, you know what I mean? People have lost their lives trying to help her, you know what I mean? She's helped a lot of people also escape Gilead, children, all kinds of stuff. And then the idea that she wants to go like back in there was exhausting. I tried to stay in there as long as I could, but I had to get out. And then I definitely didn't see the last season. So I think actually I'm 2 seasons short on there, but you know, but I've also watched a good chunk of it. So anyway, I wanted to read the book because I was curious as to whether or not there were things that were left out of the series, if there were things like, and just like to make the comparison, how similar was the book to the show. And really, I think the show kind of ran away from the book. The book was sad and like terrifying and scary, but also it felt very brief compared to the show that we know. I also felt like I got a lot of clarity around what my existence would have been like in that world. And actually, I wouldn't have existed in that world. And that was what was really interesting to me, is that at some point I realized that the book, The Handmaid's Tale, it begins after they have already gotten rid of people who look like me. Like the book begins like, but there are things that took place before it started, if that makes sense. And it does like reference like what they got rid of the black folks, they got rid of the people of color. If you were Jewish, they offered you a boat back to Israel, and actually the boat did, I think the boat actually did not reach its destination. They just put the people on the boat, like best of luck kind of thing, which is also very scary. And it's like crazy because this whole time, like, you know, people in the comments of these like Handmaid's Tale chit chats on TikTok were like always talking about like, oh, like they're gonna do this to us, they're gonna do that to us. And it's like a lot of black women in there too. And now I have this whole other perspective of like, actually no no, we will be dealt with. Actually, what you thought was going to happen to all of us is only going to happen to some of us, because the rest of us are going to be dealt with, you know what I mean? God forbid, but you know, yeah, no. Anyway, I it's weird to say that I enjoyed the book. I thought the book was interesting, and I'm glad that I took a listen to it. It was really interesting too. At the end of the book, you find out that the whole thing is a retelling, like almost like a Anne Frank kind of thing. It's a diary that people in the future have found. I think it was like the year 2139 or something. Like, I'm making that up, but like it was like years later. And they're basically saying they discovered this artifact, this diary, and they have like other evidence to try to like piece together who this could have been that wrote it, and the things that they experienced. So it was definitely like a hard listen, but I'm glad that I did that, because now, like I just said earlier, I can be someone who has like a real opinion about the readings, because now maybe I cheated by listening to the audiobook, but I have the readings. I have knowledge of the readings now. So yeah, I don't know. That's one thing I've been listening to, or like listen to. I'm currently listening to The Delectable Negro. It's Black History Month, okay? So it made sense that I would pick up something. I didn't know it would be that. But you know, everybody's talking about the files right now, and people have a lot of opinions, and there's a lot of stuff coming out, and photos and videos and all kinds of stuff. And someone was talking about how like the consumption of flesh or whatever over time becomes addictive or something. Like I was reading this and I was like, wow, that's really crazy. And I just like got in this rabbit hole. And then somewhere in the rabbit hole, this book is mentioned, and I went and found it in the library, and it was available on the audiobook, The Delectable Negro. And I didn't expect this book to be what it is. Like, I knew it was going to be about how they were eating us in the back days. But just the overall, like, consumption of Black people, our essence, our physical being, and also, like, kind of sexually, too. That was not to be expected. So it's, like, talking about all the ways that you can consume a person. And, I've been, again, it's like weird to say like, oh, I'm enjoying this book, you know what I mean? Because it's about this horrible thing. But I feel angry listening to it. I feel feelings. I also feel gratitude to now know this information, because it's just stuff that I just never could have thought about on my own. And just was just generally enlightening. Like, I never knew that Nat Turner, like, I knew, like, okay, he was a enslaved person who led this, like, huge rebellion, and that is, like, the historical thing about him. I didn't know that after they caught him, he was consumed. Like, I missed that whole part of the history lesson, okay? And if you didn't know, is that after they caught him, they like made a coin purse out of him. They allegedly like made a belt, and then the rest of him, aside from his head and brain, they said they did like research and stuff on his brain and head and stuff, and that the skull was missing for some years. They didn't know who had it, but that the rest of him was boiled down into a grease, like into oil. Like it boiled down into an oil, because they thought that he had mystical, magical powers. You know what I mean? And not to make jokes about something so serious, but like when I was thinking this, I was like, you know, I'm always saying like the Black girl magic, like that is me when I'm at work and when I'm navigating through the world and stuff. You know, people are always like commenting, like my physical being is commented on more than any of my other coworkers ever, like, you know what I mean? Like, or, you know, people who are interacting with me, like, I know that I am magical. Like, I know that I am flavorful, and people don't know what to do with all of this. You know what I'm saying? And so it becomes a spectacle. Like, I am regularly a spectacle, and it's not because they're mean people or they're like I've come to the conclusion that some people just cannot help themselves, right? But to be like enamored, you know what I'm saying? I just kept thinking about this, like the Black girl magic, right? That people are experiencing when they're experiencing me. Not to be all like, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm like self-absorbed or whatever, but I'm just saying that like I got a little Black girl magic about me, and people can feel it and they don't know what to do with it, and they start glitching, right? And I started thinking about like with this Nat Turner thing is like people were enamored with his story and thought that he was magical, literally, and they boil his body down into an oil, and people were taking it like medicine, like they said for like medicinal purposes or whatever. Like people were trying like top dollar to just get some of him, to have some. They said they got to a point where the other enslaved people stopped using like castor oil and things like that because they were afraid of potentially accidentally consuming Nat Turner. Like like it's a lot. None of this is funny. I just have a nervous laugh. But it just had me thinking, you know what I'm saying? The way that the world consumes us as Black people. And there was just so much. There was so much. And it's a heavy listen, you know, because I listened to it. I didn't read it. I probably wouldn't have read it, honestly. Like, honestly, that's the one thing I like about audiobooks. It helps me to get the information that I might not want to read. I think if I had read this or started reading this book and it took this crazy turn talking about like grape and stuff like that, like I wouldn't have finished it. But because I'm listening to it, I can take a break, you know, go do something else, go listen to something else, come back. And I'm almost done. I think I got like 3 hours left. It was a 11-hour listen. But yeah, I know that was a little bit heavy, but that's what I've been doing. You know what I mean? I'm getting into the readings or the listenings. While I'm here, I did want to go back to talking about TikTok because I started this conversation a couple episodes ago because at the time we were getting ready to go into the sale of TikTok to Oracle, and we didn't really know what it was going to bring or what it was going to be like. Now we know a lot of things, and specifically like on the new like terms of service situation. If you don't know, after they updated the app to make it like US only, blah blah blah, they made everybody like agree to this like crazy terms of service. Basically, they can use your content and data to figure out like if you're a citizen or like if you got some stuff going on, and like all this like kind of deep dive extra level of surveillance that we all had to like agree to in order to keep using the app. It's really scary and it's excessive, and a lot of people left the app. There were lots of reports days after the change, like of people who were just leaving the app. And I thought about it. I thought about leaving. I discussed it with my coworkers because we're also trying to get a TikTok account off the ground for work. And, you know, we talked about it. Some people actually did delete their personal TikToks. I said that I would think about it. I did think about it, right? I took one afternoon and I was like 5 hours. Let's see. 5 hours, no TikTok. Okay. And I got off the app and I got on some other apps, right? There's a new app called Upscroll that people are getting on. There's too much nakedness. And I ran into someone using the N-word with the hard R, and because the Upscroll's whole thing is that they don't want to limit or to like, they're like super like, we want free speech over here. But I do think that with free speech, like I feel like free speech should have some guardrails. You know what I'm saying? I do think there should be some guardrails. I shouldn't have to be racially accosted just minding my business and navigating your app. Okay. Anyway, I was over there. There's another app called Spill where I think that's mostly like for Black people. There's a couple of apps that I just was bouncing around to trying to get a sense of if I could find a home here, if I like it here. And then obviously I was still on the Meta suite, or the Meta apps. And I was on Instagram, and I was just thinking about what is the sort of information I'm able to gather or consume or learn about, what am I able to get from these other places? And, I would say that Instagram was probably the most helpful in me knowing what's going on, what's happening, what's new, what's hip. But it was okay. I don't normally go to Instagram I go there for celebrity tea. If I want to know what's tea, you know what I mean? I might go to Instagram. But generally, I can't say that I was enlightened any by visiting these other apps. Twitter, I went to Threads, even though I think I kind of like Threads though. I think I do. But then after the 5 hours was over, I went back to TikTok. I'm bombarded and overloaded with information that I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. I got on the app that day, And I learned about this guy who works at a Korean restaurant in Minneapolis. He's white, his coworkers are not. And them boys came and knocked on the door, tried to come up in there, and he put himself between them and his coworkers. You know what I mean? And he didn't allow them to come in, and they went away, he thought. But then he was like, it's been 3 days and these people are stalking me. Like, they're following me around. You know what I mean? At one point I had to go to the police station to keep them from following me. You know what I mean? I get to my house, they're already there. They're outside. Like, they started stalking him as like a retaliation thing for him speaking, like putting himself in between them and his coworkers. I would have never learned about that anywhere else. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, because even the other day, someone showed a clip from the UN of people condemning the things that they condemn. We would have never got that on the news here. There's just stuff we're just not going to get, information we're not going to hear about here. And that's like my whole point, is that I don't want to be in the dark. I understand that this app has like all these, it's getting weird over there. Like, let's be clear, like, it's getting really weird over there. Like I said, the terms of service are not good. Somebody like me probably should have cut it off immediately. You know what I mean? Again, doing the people's work and whatever, I should have cut it off immediately. But I do not want to be in the dark. I want to know what's going on. Like, I want to be able to connect with people who can tell me something new. I want to learn, you know what I mean? Like, it felt like being off of the app, and it sounds so dramatic, right? But being off of that app felt like going dark. Like, I have somebody in my life right now that got completely overwhelmed and overloaded by what's happening in the world, and they took a break off the app just to be able to kind of reset their nervous system, and shout out to them for doing that. But it just furthers my point that getting off of that app means going dark and not knowing what's going on in the world. I think it's actually one of our few resources right now. So that's where I've landed. Let me know if you have thoughts about the new terms of service, and if you did actually delete your account, let me know why. Okay, so I want to talk about this last thing. It's cold tea, but I want to talk about it and then we're gonna get out of here. So a lot of people at one point were super excited about the Black Panthers making a return. And it's crazy because if you don't know what I'm talking about, at one point I felt like between Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, I started seeing like an overwhelming amount of content about the Black Panthers. Apparently there's this guy who has started up a chapter or something, and he and his people were like patrolling around the ICE situation, and we're just like showing up and being a community presence. Nothing wrong with that. People were just very, very excited to see them because we haven't seen anything about the Black Panthers in years, right? He started making all this content talking about how he's going to different cities and he's building up the different chapters and he's doing the work. Great. Amazing. I didn't want to be the one to do this because at the time I was like, something ain't right. And I was going to talk about it actually in my very first video with y'all. And I was like, let me not do that because I didn't want people to like eat me up for being like a hater or something. Like, you know what I mean? But like, I felt like something wasn't right. And my reasoning was also messed up because the reason I thought that something wasn't right is just because of what I've known about the Black Panthers is that they are for like the freedom and liberation of Black people, Black American people is what I thought, right? Freedom and liberation of like Black American people. The idea of like getting involved in what's going on with ICE actually lives outside of the jurisdiction of what the Black Panthers would be interested in doing. You know what I'm saying? And so when I saw them getting involved in that sort of fight, it was like an alarm bell in my head that something isn't legit here. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool, you know, it's cool to see. And also people were like, please, like, let them be on the right type of time. I was like, I need to see more politics before I get on this bandwagon, because there was a lot of like misogyny and like, you know, weird stuff back in the day when the Black Panthers were doing their thing that would need to be addressed if there is a resurgence. That was really kind of my thing. I was like, I need to see more politics. I need to know what type of time they on, these new people. But also that them stepping out there like that for immigrant people doesn't quite make sense with the politic that I understand them to be about. And then it's like crazy because then I watched Amanda Seales kind of talk about it. I think she interviewed the guy and she said something wasn't right. And long story short, they got down to the bottom of it, and he wasn't brought in the right way. He doesn't have the correct sign off for what he's doing. It wasn't like I was trying to be like, oh, haha, like I knew or whatever, like, because I think it's a noble thing to want to like find an avenue in which to fight for the people. But with a name like the Black Panthers, like all this legacy, fast forward, they're calling themselves the Black Lions now. And then the Black Panther people were like, you guys, this animal doesn't even exist, like a black lion, like you should have just named yourself something else. But I don't know, it's a little debacle there. But also I was like, I hope that the peoples didn't send them, because I was like, where did they come from? Like they just popped up and started making themselves super visual and all this stuff. Mind you, some of the visuals we ended up seeing were confirmed to be like actors in another project that were getting used adjacent to this man talking about the program he was running. It was the whole thing was a mess. And like I said, I didn't want to be like, oh, I think there's something wrong here, because what do I look like trying to bring down someone trying to do good works? But something just didn't seem right from the beginning, and now it's all been found out. But like, I just hope they're not like the feds. That's all. That's all. Because people are like lining up to get some training and stuff from them, which is great. Like, cool. It feels like we should keep an eye on that. That's all I gotta say about it. Anyway, I am gonna be doing like a mix of videos that are multi-topic, like this one, and then I'm gonna be doing like one topic videos as well on just stuff I want to talk about more specifically. Just like I made that like hour-long video about Ray J. I think it's 40 minutes. 40 minutes of me talking about Ray J. Just because I find Ray J to be really interesting, and there's so much more I could have talked about. I thought about it after I was watching it back. I was like, dang, I should have talked about this. I should have talked about that. Listen, I just have thoughts, and like I said, I'm just in the mood to chat. I'm in the mood to chat, and that's what I'm going to do until I don't feel like chatting no more. Anyway, if you got a topic that you want me to talk about more specifically, if you want some clarification on something that I said in this video, let's chat. Hit me up in the comments. Thank you all for being here. I'm excited that I'm like hovering around 100 subs already. So that's super exciting. And yeah. I will see you in the next video. Bye.